Well done.
Everyone wants a pay rise, but nobody wants to work for it. So salvation is not beyond immediate learning, right? But it's learning. But ultimately, your learning comes from experience, not from concepts. We're trying to get away from the concepts, right? Salvation is freedom from concepts. So when you're reading the course, you're reading it obviously with your conceptual mind, and you try to make sense of it. You sort of poke at it this way and that way. What does he mean by this? What does he mean by that? And throughout the whole process, ultimately you learn to go with the flow. If Jesus knows what that means and I don't know what that means, that's okay. I'll just keep reading. I'll just keep going, and then it'll pop up later on. You'll be like, ah, now I get it. Right? And that's the process of everything. Many, many years ago in life, and I can barely remember this now, but like pre the Course in Miracles, I met a whole range of eclectic sort of people over a vast period of years, and each of them contributed in a way to my understanding of life, the universe, and everything, even though I didn't have this kind of technical way to put it all together and make sense of it for myself. It seemed to be a lot of happen chance kind of encounters where somebody would say something and it would make sense and I could use it for a minute and then I'd forget, right? And the Course in Miracles is a lot like that. If you were stuck in prison, let's say, and there are prisons ministries now that use Course in Miracles, but if you were stuck in prison, you could undergo the whole gamut of going from the place where you realize you're doing this to yourself, which is a very obvious example if you're in prison, to the point of your liberation, right? In symbolic form, as well as how it is that you process things in your own mind. But everything is a decision. Everything is a choice. Everything is an action of mind. Breathing, meditation, and to some extent even prayer are supplementary to that action of mind. They're support mechanisms. They're like the tea and coffee at AA, right? The real work of AA is forgiveness. But the support mechanism, the whole thing that leans towards you to bless you, is all part and parcel of that one moment of making that perfect decision, that clear decision. I choose for God. There's Tanya, have you got a camera there? And Colin. So when I say let's do a Zoom about breathing, right? What I'm talking about is a mantra, essentially. And if you don't know what a mantra is, it's a repetitious, droning, generally kind of series of ideas that you focus on. So there's Meg. Hey. So in the Course in Miracles, towards the, I think around from about the 260s onwards, it tends to be more of these mantra style lessons where you sit and repeat to yourself the same idea over and over. Right? God is but love and therefore so am I. And you go on and on with that. God is but love and therefore so am I. And eventually you sort of trail off into the silence, we say God is, and then we cease to speak, right? Because there's no definition from that point on. The conscious mind wants to sort of pose the question, what do you mean God is? God is what? And it's like, well, there's no answer to that. There's only an experience, and we're here for an experience. So we say God is and cease to speak, and it's a kind of a jumping off point into silence. But you'll find again and again and again, you'll reach that jumping off point, you'll say God is and cease to speak, and then you'll pose the question to yourself, is this ceasing to speak? Am I not speaking? And the chitty chatty mind likes to sort of qualify everything, so it even tries to qualify the silence, which means there's no silence, right? And it takes a minute and it takes some practice to be able to enter into that silence and not raise the next question, right? Not have that next thing come. And that's simply a matter of practice and a matter of deferral to the Holy Spirit, which hopefully you're doing by now, in all things. right? So in my lessons, in my prayers, in my daily outlook, in my interactions with other people, everything, I want the Holy Spirit to abide with me in all of those things, and I'm calling upon that, and I'm sort of communing with that, the spirit of wholeness, right? So that I remember my purpose everywhere I go. If I'm purposeful everywhere I go, and my purpose is love, through forgiveness perhaps, but love, then that's eventually going to be the result that I get back seeing in my relationships. And if it's not, well, it's only me that's not putting it into my relationships, and it's only me that needs that call for love, right? I'm seeing something as either love or a call for love. So when I'm, it's the same thing when you go from the external world, your relationships here, and you slowly phase it in so that everything becomes this internal practice, right? And you become more like the Buddha, just sitting in silence and processing everything in your mind as an idea of letting go, right? I let go and let God, let go and let God. And that's a continual thing until the mind is just trained to do that by itself automatically. And one day you'll be walking around and you'll be like, oh my God, I just forgave that whole thing in my mind without even thinking about the process. It just happened. And it'll be like, woo. You know, in AA, they say work the program until it works you. And there's a point where it begins to work you, where your mind training and the retraining of the way you see the world starts to take root and flourish like a tree and grows and fruit. You know, Jesus says it's like a little tiny mustard seed, and you practice and practice and practice, and it grows into a mighty tree. And then birds and whatever can come and flock in the tree, which is essentially your family, your friends, and your world resting in the tree of your peace. Right? You become that tree wherever you go, and everybody who recognizes you, whether they know you or not, recognizes something in their heart space which represents a kind of a peace or a gentleness or a comfort. And it's like, oh, that person's energy. And it's like, Tina, I was saying to you about that Hawaiian woman I met. Her energy was so soft. It was just beautiful, you know, and I know that's sort of in their culture. They're a very soft kind of people, softly spoken, very gentle, and, you know, but in general. So when we talk about breathing as such, I mean, there's a whole spiritual domain now about breath work, soma breath work, and rebirthing and all of this sort of stuff, where you focus heavily on the idea of breath, right? But awakening is nothing more than a decision in the mind. Jesus says that in the Course, right? He even goes as far as to talk about chakras, right? There's no such thing as glands, right? The activation of glands has nothing to do with awakening. It's simply a decision to awaken, right? And that decision to awaken begins of itself to activate whatever needs to happen through the body as an idea of form follows mind, right? Healing flows downstream from decision. So if you have cancer or whatever, you choose to awaken, which is a complete reversal of the way you've been thinking about yourself, the world, and everything else. And the body, as a manifestation of the mind, begins to respond in kind, and you begin to get what people call healings. And these things are natural. If they're not natural, then there's obviously a blockage somewhere. Right? There's obviously something more to look at, and that's where's Mary? That's where, in our thing the other night, what I was trying to get across was to be able to look at the false representation of the self that always wants to speak first and present the first answer. Right? So Jesus says ego always speaks first. Right? And if you question your first, like Buddha says, question everything, question your own intentions, question your own integrity, question everything, because you're not building a ladder of education from the past to the future. You're finding yourself in the present moment as a kind of a born again experience of yourself, where the narrative generally is to question the reality you find yourself in and to make a new choice about it. So I'm choosing again, I'm choosing again, I'm choosing again. It's not like all of my study of A Course in Miracles for the last umpteen years or whatever accumulates to some final point off in the distance. It doesn't. Right? It's always here and now. Right here, right now, everything I've learned about the course before, that I think I know about the course before, it doesn't amount for a hill of beans. It's nothing. It's right now. What am I choosing? I'm either choosing love or, and you might say, well, I'm not even choosing love. Well, in that case, you're choosing fear. You know, not to know that you're not actively choosing for love is to actively choose fear. There's no such thing as a subliminal choice or a what do you call it? A unrecognized choice. You can think there is, but that's not accurate. And you can test that easily by looking at the cause and effect nature of your relationships, but I won't get into that here. We're going to do breathing. So breathing as such, if you look at the idea that the mind is undisciplined or untrained, then it helps to have, as in the style of a mantra, something to focus on to help you train it. Okay, now breathing is very useful for that, because you have to breathe anyway. You can't not breathe. Your physical form won't last particularly long. So why not focus on breath as something that is unavoidable as your mantra to help keep you focused? So you're breathing in, and there's a few techniques, I'll get into them in a minute, but you're breathing in, you're breathing out, you're breathing in, you're breathing out. Essentially, you could accompany that breathing with God is, I am, God is, I am, as a kind of a mantra, right? Now, all of these things are temporary. You don't want to turn your practices, your prayers, your rituals or whatever, into rituals. You don't want them to become systems, because systems are of the ego. And if you think of them in terms more of as crutches, temporary aids until you can learn to walk for yourself, right? One of the things with the workbook lessons that you'll notice is Jesus gives you very specifically a set of instructions with each lesson, right? Those instructions are crutches. He knows you don't know where you are, how to listen, how to see. You have eyes but don't see, ears but don't hear. He knows all that stuff, right? He's not saying, hey, you idiots, what are you doing there? Come on home. He's not like that. He's like, all right, I see the issue. Here's some solutions. Some of the practices that he gives you in some of those lessons, some of you guys are going to really take to them like a fish to water, and others of you are going to be like, no, that didn't really work for me. But you'll find something in other lessons, right? And if you become a bit more adept at, I don't know if adept is the right word, but if you become a bit more sort of aware of how those workbook lessons are structured, you'll see that there's like 3 or 4 different techniques that he gives you, right? So I think it's lesson 13 or 16 where he says, imagine a bank of clouds, right? And you're trying to push through the clouds. Now, this is mentally. It's not obviously not out here. You can't reach the clouds. Mentally. And he said, if you find it helpful to do so, try to imagine my hand reaching through the clouds to you, and you can reach out and take my hand and I'll help you through, right? That's creative visualization. A lot of people have great success with creative visualization, especially people that are artistic. They tend to see things in pictures in their minds, and it's like, oh, I get that. I can see that in my mind's eye. I can see what he's talking about, right? Other people, like, when you get to that sort of idea of lesson, you'll have people that will say to you flat out, I can't see any clouds. I can't even imagine clouds, right? And so there's other lessons that present other avenues, like the mantra style ones towards the second half of the workbook, right? And just sit still and repeat this as a meditation. And I forget her name, but who was it, Tina, that we had? And she was a secretary for her whole life. I forget her name.
Carrie?
Can't remember. But we were doing something with creative visualization one day, and she couldn't see it because she'd had a whole lifetime of conditioning of putting things into categories, catalogs, whatever, and being a secretarial person, an administrative person. But as soon as she got to the mantra style lessons, she was like up and away with it. Like, it just made sense. It was like putting things into boxes. Oh, I get it, So we're going to do breathing, and we're going to do the 478, or is it 479? No, it's the 478 technique, which is a pretty standard technique for in psychological circles for helping people calm down when they have a sense of anxiety, for just integrating a greater deal of oxygen into the body, right? We're going to keep this on the body level for a minute. And when your blood is more oxygenated, right, all of the facilities of the body that are reacting to whatever have a greater capacity to be able to maintain themselves, right? So if you're an incredible panicker, let's say, you can often feel incredibly lightheaded and pass out from being panicked or stressed and things like that. So breathing is one of the things that they help you with in medical circles. Like, let's just take a few breaths here and relax, right? So the 478, I find this works better for women. I don't really use it at all for myself, but because somebody asked me about it, it's like, well, it was a very, very early on part of my experience before I came to the course. And then there was another thing when Brother Stan was here, another breathing technique that I developed myself, because Stan was a swimming coach most of his life. And anyone who doesn't know Stan's probably, 75, nearly 80 years old. He still swims 2 kilometers a day. Every day he's one of those old guys that you see just goes, he doesn't stop. He just does his thing. He's done it his whole life, and he can run or jog for miles and miles and miles at his age, and his mind doesn't know the meaning of the word I can't. He's the most beautiful, incredible person. Like but I remember when our family we were looking at the idea of doing a family together, and my wife enrolled us in this 5-kilometer run at the marina in Mackay, and you start at a certain place and you have to run all around this hinterland and or foreshore, and then all the way back. The 5K run, Deb, they do at the harbour, right? So Deb still lives in Mackay, so Rosie enrolled us in that, and it's like I couldn't run 100 meters. I'm like, what the heck, but at the time Stan was staying with us. And I had all these words of encouragement from Stan, and we would go down to the beach, and Stan and I would do these little jogs, and eventually I could jog a kilometre with his coaching and everything. So there was another breathing technique I developed with that, right? But we're going to do the 478. So I find this works better for women because women have smaller lungs. If you guys find you're not getting a whole breath, try 578 or 678. Right, so essentially what you're doing is breathing in for 4 seconds, and then you hold it for 7. And then you breathe out for 8. And you breathe out for longer than you breathe in to be sure that you've emptied your lungs. Okay? Now, remember, the breathing technique itself is nothing. It's what you're doing in your mind, right? Everything is mind. And even though throughout the day you're going to have all of these kind of physical activities that you have to do, if they are mindful or if they are purposeful, you're going to learn to equate them with the discipline of mind training, and they're going to become more meaningful for you. Okay? This exercise is, if you are someone, and a lot of people experience anxiety when they're doing the course, it brings up a lot of stuff, and it's supposed to, right? But if you are someone like that experiences a lot of anxiety, you will be able to practice this just on the fly anyway. Okay? So close your eyes for a second. We'll do a practical. We'll do the breathing, and I'll count. Right? This feels like primary school, really. But anyway, you guys are all frozen.
You're breaking up.
Tina?
You're breaking up.
Uh-oh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know. I'm breaking up.
Okay, wherever you're right now, stay there.
It'll come back in a second.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll do the thing. So just relax, sit, and we'll practice the breathing. No, I'm frozen. Uh-oh.
Right now you're okay. Nope.
The whole thing's frozen. I wonder if I log out and log back in, that might. Am I
We can
back?
turn our cameras on. I think he should turn his camera off. You're back.
All right, cool. All right. All right, so you guys close your eyes and let's have a moment. Okay, I'll count for the breathing. You guys, Brian and Malik and Colin and anyone else, where is everybody? I can't see, but Francois and who else? Max,
The
even
guys.
Claire, you're quite large in the chest. So, but if you have larger lungs, if you have larger lungs and you want to extend it to
Me too.
five, go ahead. You're nothing. You're tiny.
I got large lungs though.
You just shout a lot. All right, you ready? Breathing in on 1, 2, and you can breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. Okay, I should have mentioned that before. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Out through the mouth. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Right now, it might feel a little bit awkward, a little bit structured, because you're used to breathing just normally in, out, in, out, in, out. And most people, when they breathe, in fact, pretty much everybody when they breathe, unless you're an opera singer or an Olympian, you only breathe from this top 1/3 of your lung capacity. There's like this superficial little, and you get through the day, right? It's very rare that people stop and go and fill their whole lungs as a way of their natural breathing. So when you're breathing in for 1, 2, 3, 4, you want to try and fill your lungs, feel that diaphragm area under here, feel the pressure that comes with having full lungs there. You ready? We'll start again and we'll do 3 repetitions. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Ready? In, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. In, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. In, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right, and obviously you would do that, you would practice that for about a minute if you were feeling anxious until your sense of calm came back to you. And it will, right? The more oxygen you get into your blood, and the very nature that you are counting and using a structured breathing technique is automatically withdrawing your mind from the sense of panic that anxiety brings and giving it purpose and bringing you back into a therapy that calms you down. Okay. Now, in mind training, all we're looking for is the numbers. We don't care about the breath. We could be breathing like a panting dog. It wouldn't matter, right? But the fact that we're breathing like a panting dog or in calm, that's the whole point of mind training, is to realize that the mind and the body, okay, are initially out of sync. My thoughts in here are making my body sick. I see the witnesses to sickness through my body because my thinking, the way I see the world and myself is out of whack. Right? I think I'm the body. And that decision, it flip-flops back and forth, especially when you become more attuned through your spiritual discipline and you start to read the Course. And, I'm not a body, I'm the spirit, I am the mind, because spirit is the Latin for the Greek word mind. It's the same thing. Right? I am mind. And you flip-flop, your ego's like, well, what are you going to do with that? You know, the voice in your head goes flip, 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 body, spirit, body, spirit, body, spirit. And you go through this horrible transitional period where you're making a series of decisions with every relationship that you find yourself in regarding what it is you think you are. How am I going to represent myself in this situation as a child of God or as a body doomed to die? If you're representing yourself as a child of God, there's no need to say anything, do anything specifically. It's a state. It's a mental state. Right? It's a sense of awareness. It's a sense of beingness that you carry with you, and essentially it keeps the channel higher to lower open so that in whatever situation you find yourself, you're kind of like a servant of the divine, and God is the doer through you rather than you thinking you've got to sort of work something out and figure out how to heal this relationship, because you can't. You don't even know how you got into the relationship. You don't know how you got into the world. You don't even remember making that first decision to find yourself in this seeming appearance of being separate from God, illusory or otherwise. Right? Jesus says in the Course, it's like forgiveness is applied where it seems to be needed in the mind that seems to see the use for it, etc., etc., etc. There's no good denying it, running around going, there is no world, it doesn't matter. Well, of course it does matter. Right? It matters, otherwise you wouldn't have 365 workbook lessons, you wouldn't have a text, you wouldn't have anything called the Course in Miracles, and Jesus never needed to have come here in the first place, 2,000 years ago or otherwise. Right? So the whole idea that it's been recognized, like in the Course, it says, God knows only that his son sleeps and must be awakened. Right? Now, that's already occurred. All we're doing is bringing ourselves to the understanding of that so that we can experience it for ourselves and begin through that whole process of realigning ourselves, repenting, which means to turn around, repenting or turning around to face the light as a conscious decision which is ongoing, rather than walking away from the light and flip-flopping spiritual this, spiritual that, and walking away and sometimes having moments. And we talk about it as, something happened today. I had a spiritual thing happen today. Well, that's that should be your natural life. Your whole natural life should be, wow. It should be just a state of wonder, like that row, row nursery rhyme that we played right at the beginning. The wonder of a small child, that should be your natural state. That is your natural state. Right? So we're learning to return to that natural state. It doesn't preclude any kind of competency that you have to be able to navigate your way in the world, make breakfast and do all that sort of stuff and get a job, and like all of that's included. But your peace of mind is the focus of it. Okay, so part of, where's Mary? Part of the, she's gone. Hey, there's Elizabeth. Where's Mary gone? No, she's gone. All right. Oh, no, there she is.
Mary's there.
Yeah, no, it's all right. There's all these people on I've got to look around here and find. So Mary and I tried doing this exercise online the other night. I don't know what time of the day it was for you, Mary, but for me it was night, late. But where I asked her a question, right, and then got her to doubt the answer by looking for another question on a deeper level. Now, the question was predicated by...
I'm so sorry, you offered me a healing, so...
Yeah, that was it. Otherwise, we're just talking about whatever. So.
And I was trying my best, yeah.
You did really well. You did really well. But we're going from the idea with that of when Jesus says, like, imagine the clouds, right? And then he says, try to get a sense of moving forward. What we're looking for is that sense. Okay? So what we're looking for, and when you sense, you feel, you go from the conscious mind where you're trying to work something out to the heart, right? What happens with the Course, heart and mind come into an alignment. Typically, the ego always speaks first. You're always operating from the, and I don't know why I touch my head when I say mind, but anyway, you I always do that. You operate from the mind. That mind always speaks first, and you don't even stop to consider that there might be a better answer or another answer or some kind of other answer. You just think that that answer is always the right one because it's the one that you give, right? In Native American culture, my friend Joey, he's passed now, but he explained to me once, we were talking about his particular culture. He's a Navajo, and he said, with the old people, when you ask them a question, they won't answer you straight away. They'll sit quietly and they consider their answer. They consider their answer based on the good of the tribe, based on your well-being, the well-being of the tribe and everything else like that, because they're inclusive of you as part and parcel of their experience. It's not like you're somebody else and they won't have to see you again and whatever, right? And it's a really beautiful practice. And so the answer comes from the heart, right? Whereas in our fast-paced Western world, because the Course is written for the Western mind, we tend to just shoot from the hip with answers and choices and decisions. And it's only when we have skin in the game, like money invested or something like that, that we stop to really make more informed decisions and choices. Much of our life is superficial, where we gloss over it, attempting to get to what we think are the points where we achieve something and our needs are met, right? And it takes a bit of understanding to realize that every decision along the road is a decision that arrives you at a certain point, right? We're talking alpha to omega here. In spirituality, that certain point is always a present decision. It's always a here and a now decision. But we start where we start and we apply forgiveness where it's needed in the alpha omega zone to bring us to the here and the now zone, where even then we go beyond that. So the skin in the game that you have, and Mary's skin in the game was putting a picture of her face, right? Because once you put skin in the game, once you make a commitment, then your ego mind, remember, this whole thing's a trap for the ego. It's the death of the ego, let's say, right? So once you have skin in the game, once you make a commitment, then you're sort of commitment bound to stick around and see how it turns out, right? It's like you don't go to a doctor for a prescription if you're not going to take the prescription. You go there, you tell the symptoms, you do the whole thing, and then the doctor at the end gives you his diagnosis and a prescription for whatever. Okay? The skin in the game is you went to see the doctor. You had to make that decision to say, yes, I need to go and see the doctor. And then everything becomes on the doctor's thing. Whether you understand the diagnosis or not doesn't really matter, because in the end, all you have to do is take the prescription. Right? In our case, we're attempting to understand the diagnosis as well, because we want to make sure that we don't repeat the same errors of thought again and again and again. And if we're being miracle-minded, we want to make sure that the honesty of our prayer, which is prayer of the heart, is where it is we're coming from. So if you see the same sort of things showing up in your relationships after you've prayed, you'll realize that your prayer was just lip service. And I've had many experiences of that. And it's not fun. right? You think you're praying, you think you're being honest, but when you get up from your prayer, most times before you even get up from your prayer, you kind of know. It's like, I could have done better. That wasn't very deep. It wasn't very heartfelt. And you get this sense of superficiality. But you don't get the sense of superficiality unless you understand the nature of your being in denial. Which is why a great deal of emphasis in the book, in A Course in Miracles, in the beginning, in those early chapters, is on helping you to understand how it is that your thought choices, your decisions have been made to sabotage you. Right? You've been sabotaging your own best interests. Even one of the lessons is, I do not perceive my own best interests. And if you gloss over that and just take that lightly, you'll continue to not perceive your own best interests. Right? You have to really understand that at a core level. Otherwise, you're not going to become fluently dependent on God. You'll still think you've got this. Right? So learning that ego always speaks first, my first answer. All right, well, let me question it. My first response in this situation is to want to blah, 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 whatever I think that is. But what would God have me see in this situation? And you feel that, right? Now, it's easy to come up with a second answer that you think is more spiritual or more beneficial or more whatever. If you dig around a bit in there, you'll realize, and that's partly because ego always does shoot from the hip. Just the first answer, whatever comes to mind. And then if you give it a little bit more consideration, there's another answer, right? And every one of you will have had the same experience of being able to look at a situation in your life that you chose a certain response to and wished that you could have applied a different response to it to affect a different result. And at the same time that you made the initial response, you were already aware of the second response, right? You walk away from it. Oh, why did I say that? I should have said this. Or why did I do that? I should have done this. That person asked me for help and I told them a story about how I couldn't help. I should have just helped. There's always, and the mind will always give you a selection of choices. What we're looking for is the space between those choices, right? And it's a felt space. It's the heart space. Because your ego will give you there will be innumerable questions, innumerable alternatives, just on and on and on. It doesn't stop, right? But between those two answers, like Mary came up with two answers, both of them are equally false. One appears to be more credible than the other one, perhaps, but they're both ultimately false. And that would go on and on and on and on and on with the same question until the potential in that situation is exhausted for answers. But within that situation is the miracle. Within that situation is the felt experience where we drop out of the headspace for a second and allow ourselves through the Holy Spirit, help me, Father, to choose rightly here, to choose what you would have, right? We drop into the heart space for our answer, and we sit there and we wait for a second, and you feel that. Now, some people have a great difficulty to feel things when it comes to the non-temporal, right? It's easy to feel something if you stub your toe, whatever, you feel it straight away. But when we talk about feeling the heart space, you're feeling a connection with the universe, with God, with universal mind, whatever you want to call it. You're feeling that. And the whole purpose of the Course is to rekindle that in you. The whole purpose of the Course is to bring you this incredible, gently down the stream rekindling of a memory, of a connection, of a sense of self that is already in you, but forgotten. Okay, so every situation, every question, every relationship is an opportunity for miracle-mindedness to, one, stop. And if you need to take a breath, stop and question within yourself, how should I answer this question? Not to look for the answers to the question, right? Because the ego will give you plenty of options, right? but ask within yourself, and you feel that, you sort of drop into feeling. And this is something I can't talk about, I can't explain it. You just kind of get a sense of it. It's like when you're in your kitchen alone, let's say at night, and all of a sudden you get a sense there's somebody behind you. It's that kind of a sense. But it goes internally, and you feel it in a way where it's so difficult to talk about. It's almost like a sixth sense. It's like something that you don't use. Women are more perceptive to it than men particularly, but you feel that the answer is correct. You feel that whatever is coming through, and 99% of the time, it's going to have nothing to do with the thoughts in your head. All right? Jesus says in the Course, some of the answers the Holy Spirit gives you will be completely amazing to you. They won't make sense of the particular situation. They won't seem relevant. They'll be completely out of the ballpark answers, but they're always the right answer. And you have to trust them. And it's like when I punched Mike, right, in session one day, and it's like I got this inner prompting, right? It's so weird, right? I'm in a spiritual center. I'm in a healing center where everything's all peace, love, and mung beans. And we're doing this big group thing, and I'm standing behind Mike, and all of a sudden I get this clear direction. It is as clear as day, and it comes through from on high to punch Mike, who's standing in front of me with his back to me. And I'm like, what? What is this? Where is this coming from? What? And I knew I had to do it. It's almost as if I couldn't stop doing it. And I punched Mike on the belt. I didn't want to do it, but I thought, all right, I'm just going to do it, whatever the hell. You know, like I had no grievance with Mike at all. Mike's beautiful. Mike's my beautiful brother, right? But Mike had 2 girlfriends at the time. Each of them was standing to the side of him in that same group. One that he just broken up with a little while ago. And Byron Bay, the place where he was, kind of everybody's, you know, nobody cares if you have 2 girlfriends. And the other one was to the right. And Mike was standing, everyone's got their eyes closed doing this sort of standing meditation. I punch Mike in the belt, not really hard, but I give him enough of a whack to make him move a bit. His 2 girlfriends go flying across the room without being touched by anything, just energy. Right? This is metaphysics. They go flying across the room about 5 feet each, like as if somebody got in between them and pushed them apart with unseen hands. Right? That's the kind of direction you can get following the Spirit. That's probably my most extreme example of following that direction. I don't know what happened. I don't know how come the 2 women went flying apart. Mike probably to this day doesn't know why I punched him on the belt line. But there was a result. Right? And one of the stories of Helen Schuckman, which is incredibly beautiful, she got a direction one day. Right? She felt it. She felt that one of her friends was trying to commit suicide, and she told Bill Thetford, right? This is in the story of the Course. She told Bill Thetford, this guy's like 1,000 miles away, hasn't seen him for a while, whatever. So Bill said to Helen, well, why don't we just telephone him? So they telephoned him, and she was right. He was trying to commit suicide, right? And they were able to talk him around and bring a resolution, you know, but that, when the channel opens, you get all kind of stuff that sometimes is not relevant to you specifically, but which you get used to do as a representative of the divine on earth. You know, it's like Jesus making the water into wine at the wedding. Did Jesus even drink the wine? Did he care less about the wine, or was he just used to do that so everyone would be aware that his ministry had begun? You know, who knows? I mean, I really don't know, but you have these moments. So when you're learning to feel between your thoughts, you know, if you think of your thoughts as an oddly assorted procession going by, right? I always say that your enlightenment or your awakening occurs in the next thought you don't have, which is God is, and then we cease to speak, right? But if you imagine it as an oddly assorted procession going by, the mind is focused on the procession of thoughts. If you think of it as a train, you know, a circus train, which is how I think of it, there's a carriage full of monkeys, there's a carriage full of clowns, there's a carriage full of elephants. And oh, look, monkeys. And your mind is automatically drawn to the stories you know about monkeys, whatever. And there's another whole cycle goes on, right? You invent a whole world in your mind about monkeys. I went to Thailand and saw the monkeys, and monkey bit me, and monkey stole my camera, all these sorts of things, right? But the train is moving so fast, you don't realize there's a place where that carriage of monkeys connects to the carriage of elephants. Right? There's actually a tiny little gap where they have to come together to seem as if they're a continuous flow of thoughts. When you slow your mind down using the workbook, when you do that towards the end, the mantra style thing, which is what we're going to do with our breathing in a minute, where you repeat, God is but love and therefore so am I, God is but love and therefore so am I, and then later on those lessons simply go into God is, and then we cease to speak. What you're doing is bringing the mind to a full stop, to a point of stillness, to a point of, if you're a Buddhist, to a point of no mind, and you're attempting to hold it there. You won't be successful at first, so don't beat yourself up about it. It takes practice. It's a discipline. It's a devotion, a discipline. It's a whole thing. Right? You're attempting to hold your mind in God is, and then we cease to speak. And often, when I was practicing that particular lesson, which I found very, very helpful, I would go back to God is again. And sometimes I would go back further to God is but love and therefore so am I, and do a few more repetitions to bring myself back again to God is and try again. Okay. That stillness, that moment of stillness is where you will begin to feel something that you haven't felt before, but it will seem very familiar. Okay. So let's say, what's that lesson, Tina? I feel the stirring of God's strength in me. Is that 26? But whatever it is.
I think it's in the
I feel the
30s.
stirring of God's strength in me. It's not I think about God's strength in me. I feel it. I feel it. There is a specific feeling. Right? There was a moment of knowing in my conscious association prior to the course where I knew I was supported by a higher power because I'd been practicing faith. I'd been making specific experiments and going without and doing all sorts of things like that to deliberately force myself into places where faith was required, right? Which was rewarded and rewarded and rewarded again by being supported. And I knew that somehow something of a universal nature was supporting me. Albert Einstein would have said, nature abhors a vacuum. There's no lack in God, right? You always are supported. There's no place where God is ever absent. It's only in my awareness of things that could be so, as an erroneous choice, right? But I was supported, and I knew that I was supported. That knowing led me into a place of feeling. That knowing led me into a place of feeling where I felt I was overcome with the feeling eventually that I wanted to experience what was supporting me directly. And I felt it and felt it and felt it. And it was this kind of a yearning, right? It was overpowering. It was a yearning. And in the Course, Jesus says, God's Son yearns for his Father as his Father calls to him, something along those lines. Don't quote me. But there's that sense. When you feel the stirring of God's strength, when you are feeling for that place between your thoughts, which is where God's strength calls to you from, right? Then you begin to notice something. So initially you might say, well, I'm no good at feeling. I can't feel things. Well, it's like anything. You have to practice. Initially, you're going to talk to yourself about feeling things in your mind. You're consciously going to say, oh, I feel this or I feel that. And it's like, well, that's not feeling. You have to get out of your mind. That's just thinking about feeling and into your heart, right? And there's a big difference. There's a very Zen style movement of inclusivity of the thoughts, right, as the decision-making capacity, and heart and mind working together. So where it is in my mind, I make the decision for love or the decision for God, but the passion for that decision comes from my heart. And you're learning to rekindle that passion. You're learning to get in touch with it and live from it, as impractical as that might seem in our modern world. And it does seem impractical. I mean, look at the nature of even books and things like that come out these days. If you go into a bookstore, you go back like 50 years, there was a lot more passion in books, as in love stories and things like that, that today has just devolved into this kind of a rhetoric, right? I mean, the most beautiful book I ever read, and I never finished it, was Wuthering Heights, right? By the Bronte sisters. Emily Bronte, I think, wrote Wuthering Heights. Very, very difficult book to read, and I tried to read it with my daughter because it's written in not Shakespearean English. What's the other guy? But anyway, it's written in very ye olde kind of a way, but it's a story about a very dysfunctional family that she comes across in a moment of peril, in a moment of need. And the way that the relationships are presented through the book is incredibly passionate, and you are there. You are there in the book with her. You cannot deny it, right? That whole family and Heathcliff, who's the housemaster, and there's the servants and even the dogs, right? Absolutely every word, every sentence, every line of whatever is written in that book comes from a passionate place. It's not just rhetoric getting you to the point of the story. It is the journey. The book, the line, the moment to moment, it is the journey. It is the presence of the experience that you're having with it. It's not just the beginning, the middle, and the end. I want to see how this works out. Every moment of it is wow, right? Which is like life. And what's that saying? You know, like life is not a destination; it's a journey, right? Well, it's both. I mean, ultimately, you want to awaken, but you awaken through the process of connecting or accepting atonement, being one with the situations you find yourself in, rather than glossing over all those situations in order to get to the one that you think is the most beneficial to you at the end of the day, right? So life is what happens to you when you're busy making other plans, right? Essentially, right? So if you have an agenda-driven mind, which is what ego mind is, you'll be like a bull in a china shop trying to get to what you think is in your own best interest and missing the journey along the way, right? And it's incredible how much you can miss, like the miraculous nature of the experience you're in. For an example, a leaf falling from a tree, the feeling of the sand under your feet on the beach without shoes, two people having an argument in a distant place. If you withdraw your ego from it, it's wow. What's that? When this is over and done, and you no longer have a physical form, right? All of that you've glossed over to get to the end, in a hurry to get to the grave, will have been missed. And there's no death, by the way, but I'm just going to sort of keep it on the alpha omega for a second, right? So it's like that whole storyline, all of it is my story. I want to feel it. I want to be part of it. I don't want to logicalize it and put it into compartments so that this compartment's better than that compartment, or I get more of my advantage out of this situation than that situation. It's like, if I just let go of all of that, it's like my life becomes a beautiful experience. It becomes the love zone, like Greg's love zone. It's like God is present with me all the time, and God is love. Right? All the time. It's like there's not a moment where the love of God is absent, except that I would choose it to be that way. And that's only insanity. But it takes a moment to learn how to let down those defenses. It takes a moment to learn how to feel again, right? It takes a moment to learn how to integrate and reconnect, let's say, with my true self experience, rather than holding myself from my true self experience as I transit through the human sector of the journey of my soul. Right? I'm here whether I like it or not. So it makes no point to stamp my feet and demand it on other terms. I may as well just get jiggy with it and move right along. Right? And you'll say things to me like, oh yeah, but I hate my job and my boss is an arsehole, or if this was a different way, then I'd be happier in that situation. It's like, well, that's missing the whole point. It's like, wow, my boss is an arsehole. I'm experiencing an arsehole. And wow, this is, like, you look at the whole thing, reframe it. It's like, give it to the Holy Spirit. How am I supposed to see this? Right? When you go from the Alpha and Omega and you look at it that way, eventually what happens is you start to transit inwards and you realize that everything's just a reflection of your own state. Everything is your own mind being presented back to you for healing, so that you can learn to appreciate the wow of the experience you're having and your oneness with it. That's me. That's my mind. All of a sudden, as soon as you realize it's you, all fear goes out the window. It's gone. There's no grounds for fear. There is only love. But it takes all of those techniques. It takes mantra style techniques. It takes creative visualization. It takes prayer. It takes all of that stuff to try and bust through those clouds of ignorance, bust through those clouds of denial. And you won't recognize them until you learn to see what it is that listening to that voice in your head has set you up for as the fall guy for your own human experience. People talk about it as self-sabotage. Looking back on that relationship, if I hadn't have said this, if I hadn't have done that, maybe it would have turned out for the better. And we call that self-sabotage. Well, it is and it isn't. I mean, obviously it was meant to play out that way. Everything is the divine will of God. And when you see that this is a rescue effort, that salvation is a rescue effort, and that there's no real blueprint, that you are the blueprint for it, then you start to become aware that your full participation with the rescue effort is what it is that begins to bring into alignment your harmonic or your resonance with the experience you're having. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's like which is why you can't turn it into a ritual. Don't turn prayer into a ritual. Don't turn meditation into a ritual. People sometimes ask me, how often should I meditate? And I say, well, when you feel like it. You don't have to meditate every day, 3 times a day. You say your prayers in the morning and at night and all of that stuff. Can you imagine if you went to your dad, your earthly dad, and you knelt down at his feet in the morning and the night and said your prayers to him, and then sat there meditating to him? He'd think, what's wrong with my child? Why isn't my child just enjoying their life? It's like your relationship with the divine is from the heart. You feel it, and you are drawn towards that feeling the more you practice feeling it. The more you practice feeling rather than thinking, the more you practice letting go, the more you are letting God, because there is nothing other than that. Once you stop participating in one regime of thought, the other one automatically begins to call to you, and you begin to become aware of it. It's automatic. Right? The part of the mind, the Christ mind that you are, is seeking God as God is calling to it. The interference is trying to work out what that means. Right? Let me just let go. When I find myself in times of trouble, Mother Mary comes to me, speaking words of wisdom, let it be. And it's that simple. But you have to practice it. If you don't practice it, it's not going to come that simply, because the mind is overloaded with the old way of thinking, that analytical processing computerized mind that looks for the best evaluation out of the potential within any situation. Fuck that. What have you ever got out of that? More money? You can't buy more time by doing that. And what's the point of more money if it doesn't bring you any happiness? It just puts you into this loop of wanting more money, more money, more money. Soon I'll be a billionaire. Big deal. Do you remember your father? Do you remember your creative source? That's why you're here. All the money in the universe can't buy that experience. At least not yet, you know. Maybe in 1,000 years, like the Matrix, you want the red pill or the blue pill. I don't know, but right, there's nothing impossible to God. So we're going to practice feeling, right? In conjunction with our breathing, we're going to breathe, and we're simply going to feel our breath. And I want you to take notice of how good it feels to have a full lungful of breath, because breathing is one of those things you can attribute to the adage that familiarity breeds contempt. Right? And if you were stuck in an elevator and were running out of air, you would suddenly realize how good it feels to get a whole lungful of air. Right? And you'll begin to be able to appreciate, even in this very small exercise, how much you do take everything for granted. Right? Now, this time, and I'm going to let Malik call this because Malik's got big lungs, right? So this time when we hold our breath, we're going to hold it for 12, right? So that you begin to get a sense of, I need another breath. Right? You know, when you're swimming and you try to swim underwater and all of a sudden you start to run out of oxygen and you want to come up for breath, right? And I'm going to tell you why we're going to do this example. So the Sufi master is, and I'll with a story here, right? The Sufi master is down at the river's edge, and the new student comes down to the master. Tina knows this story. I've told this story a few times. The new student comes down to the master and says, "Master, master, I want to find God more than anything." And the master looks at the student for a moment, grabs him by the neck, and holds his head under the water until no more bubbles come up. And then he lets go of the student. And the student comes up gasping for breath. And he says, "Master, why did you do that? I could have drowned." And he said, "When you want God more than you wanted that next breath, then we can begin." And that's literally the position that Jesus is saying to you. Give up the world and follow me. Right? You can't follow Jesus if you still have concerns about being in the world. What about my children? What about my everything? Because salvation is a moment. It's a moment of here and now. And when you begin to feel it call to you, you will have no choice but to surrender to it. You won't have time to think about, oh, I've got the kettle on, or I need to call my kids, or I need to do anything. Right? Because the time of your awakening is already preset in your heart. The prayer of the heart is already there. The whole Course in Miracles could be seen simply as a way where you can learn to begin to use time in order to facilitate the coming of that awakening more efficiently, and your collaboration with it more efficiently, so that you're not resisting. The nature of human mind is it's resisting all the time. It is what the defense against love is. And the whole mind training is learning to let go and let God in the moments where it seems that that's unreasonable. Everybody likes the idea of God when everything's good. But when everything's bad, it tends to be, let's wave our fists at the sky and blame God for this, you know. And there's this whole mentality that is unhelpful It's split-mindedness or dualistic or yin-yang or whatever. All of that has to go. We're learning to become single-minded, altruistic. Right? And that happens miraculously. So we're going to just do one count of this. If you feel like you're going to pass out, take a breath. But I want you to get a sense of feeling, right? Where's Mary? Somewhere. I want you to get a sense of feeling that you need that next breath. Okay? Because it will help you to transition internally to feeling and to sensing. Right? Because it's not until you've got skin in the game that you're really going to feel something. Right? If you're still in your head, you won't feel it. It's when something's on the line, when it's important to you, then you'll feel it. Okay? Having another breath, you're going to feel that. All right? So close your eyes. You ready? And this is just a tiny, tiny little snapshot of what it is that you're attempting to practice throughout your whole day, connecting with the true nature of yourself, even on the physical level, even within the framework of the body-mind association. Okay? It's called getting grounded. A lot of people walk around, let's say, in this kind of astral, they're not really present, they're not really with it. So we have to start somewhere being grounded. You ready? We're going to go in for 4 and hold it for, Malik, you can count, if you would, for 10 or 12 or whatever. And there's no right or wrong, there's no good or better or whatever way to practice this. It's just on your own behest, if that's the right word. Okay? When you're ready, Malik, if you want to count.
All right. Okay.
Yep.
Everybody inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Right. Was that long enough? Did you guys get a sense of feeling that you needed to exhale? Okay. If you want to practice for yourself, you can do that for a bit longer. All right. But when you feel that sense of feeling, I feel like I need to exhale, right? Now, it's the same sense of that feeling can be applied to almost everything in life. Okay? I feel like somebody's behind me. I feel there's a higher purpose to my life. You can't think these things. There is an essence, there is an underlying essence to all of these things, and you're learning to connect with that. It's called the heart space. Get out of your head and into your heart. Right? Where it is you're at in your head, you slip into your heart space by refusing to participate in this thought or that thought. I don't have any use for this or that. Right? I think it's Persian, neti neti. It means not this, not that. Neti neti. Not yin, not yang. I don't want either. All the thoughts in my head can't tell me what I am. Neti neti. Not this, not that. Right? Not one of those thoughts in your head can tell you who you are. It's always going to be a concept. But between those thoughts, there's a gap. And you're learning to leave that gap empty. You're learning to be still in that gap. We say God is, and then we cease to speak. We fall into a sense of listening, into a sense of feeling. We're not listening with our ears, we're listening with our heart. It's like when you have a conversation with somebody, let's say a young, angry man, right? A teenage boy who's confused about the world and his place within the world, and he's telling you about his life, right? He might be telling you a terrible story, but in your heart, you know he's asking for help. You know that there's somebody in there who is looking for advice. Whether they're asking for advice or not, you perceive the motivation behind the storytelling, right? It's much the same as that. You're feeling what's being said rather than thinking what's being said. When it comes to feeling the presence of God within you, you're using that same intuitive kind of sense of things to go within, but it's different. It has a different harmonic, a different vibration, because what you're doing is you're matching, you're opening to something that's already there and allowing it to affect you. You're saying, all right, I can feel there's something, but it's brought me this far. I'm at a threshold, I'm at a doorway, and now I need to accept that God is going to take it from here. All right, God's going to take it from here. I don't have to worry about it. All I have to do is stay here and wait here. All right, we say God is, and then we cease to speak. All right, in the presence of God, what are you going to do? Tell God what you feel? You'll be so glad to be home, you won't want to say nothing. You'll just like, I remember my teacher said to me, it's like, if you have an experience, and Kevin, not where is, hang on, not in bed with Kevin, but Kevin, that was at the healing center with me, another Kevin, told me the story of when he met Jesus. He had a profound experience of meeting Jesus one day. He was in his kitchen doing something, and all of a sudden, everything disappeared, and he was in a whole other dimension, right? And there was Jesus as the archetypal sort of Jesus with the robe and the beard and the hair and everything. He didn't know what was happening, but he was in this massive plateau of a tiled floor, like a Greek Colosseum plateau or something, with these columns that went up forever and ever and ever. And Jesus walked with him to the edge of the plateau, and they looked out into eternity. They looked out into foreverness, right? And the takeaway that he told me from that he got was he didn't want to say anything. He was just so mind blown to be with Jesus. He couldn't think of a question. He didn't have he had nothing, right? He had nothing at all. He had no game, no riz, no nothing at all. And then he found himself back in his body, right? And it wasn't until he started working with the workbook lessons of the course that experience became integrated properly through his own transitional process. But it's something that you feel, right? You feel that calling. And I remember feeling supported by the universe, and it was a profound feeling. Of course, I had no mind training in those days. My mind tried to rationalize it. Why am I feeling? What am I feeling? I'm feeling this sort of this calling that I want to know. I'm feeling this calling that there is something within me that seems like I should know about it. And it drove me crazy. And that resulted in the dark night of the soul. But it was that feeling like I need that breath, right? And we feel externally until we begin to apply those same principles of feeling to our internal domain. All right, well, if God is within me and I can feel the presence of God within me, let me see if I can feel it. And our practice becomes that. I'm just going to be still and I'm going to feel. Not by listening, not by qualifying what I think I'm feeling, just by sitting in the action of feeling or the action of listening with the heart. And that's something that takes practice. Only because you've forgotten. The mind has forgotten its true language, which is love. Love isn't something you think, it's something you feel. I feel love. I can't think love. Imagine if you walk around and say, I think I love you. It's like, well, do you or not? How do you know you love me? Do you feel it in your heart, or is it something you just say? You know? But that applies to everything. In this world, we tend to think love is a certain set of conditions where two people meet and that's love. But love is literally everything. I want to feel the experience of love in everything throughout my entire life. Why should there be a moment that love is absent in my experience of myself, anywhere, anytime? And that becomes like Jesus talks about it in the Course as a teaching, learning equilibrium between relationships, where one of a higher level of learning, let's say, meets one of a lower level of learning, and they teach and learn together to bring that equilibrium to recognition. And then the teaching learning relationship becomes pointless, right? It fulfills its function. Right? In every situation you guys find yourself in, and me as well, there is a teaching, learning equilibrium within the relationship. Right? There's always something to teach, and there's always something to learn. So it's like you walk into, or you find yourself in any given situation as an empty bucket. You know, it's like, all right, I don't know what this situation's about. I'm accepting that it's about love, right? And feeling the presence of God in the relationship, feeling that incredible bond of oneness, right? But I feel it with my partner, let's say, sometimes. And when we first met, I felt it, you know, whatever, but where did it go? Or, you know, but I don't feel it with the person at the supermarket. Why not? Why not? Because the mind is rationalizing what it thinks love is. And you can't think what love is. No one, every poet and every artist in the history of the world has always tried to paint and write what they think love is, how it feels. They've tried to express it. Look, poor old Van Gogh cut his freaking ear off trying to bloody express it, you know? It's like, you can't. You just have to be it. It's what you are. And you be it by feeling it within yourself, and then it becomes your natural expression. And it doesn't have to look all glitzy and wow like butterflies and unicorns and it's just, in this world, it transfers outside of you, let's say, or transfers through you and into your experience as peace, a singular state of mind. When you have a peaceful life, you'll be happy. When your life is peaceful in all your affairs, you'll be happy. The ones you think you like and the ones you think you don't like. The experience you find yourself in of yourself that you think is a great experience, and the ones that I don't want to do that again. Right? All of those things. That's what healing is. It brings that teaching, learning equilibrium so that we have this peaceful playing field. Right? That's a state of a singular consciousness. It's Buddha-mindedness, Christ-minded, Krishna conscious, whatever you want to call it. It's the state of mind. You've either got a split mind, a dualistic mind, a yin-yang mind, or you've got I am. The great I am, or the great is. When you can walk the world with I am as your state of mind, you will be present and conscious in every situation in which you find yourself, and the effect of that presence and consciousness, let's say, in that relationship will do automatically whatever it needs to do in that relationship to begin to reorchestrate the relationship itself in the cause and effect nature to be advantageous towards salvation, to be advantageous towards the resurrection. Right? Sometimes that's going to look like tipping all the apples out of the cart. Right? But if you remember, I'm just the messenger. I'm not here. I'm not attached to what my message brings. I'm not attached to how my presence in the world affects others, because I'm trusting that my presence in the world is part of a divine orchestration of healing. And for things to be healed, sometimes you got to rip the Band-Aid off. You got to rip the bloody and let the air get at it. You know, oh shit, look, it's all gone gangrene underneath. You don't like the Band-Aid being ripped off, but You know, sometimes you got to look at the wound. I don't know if that's a great analogy. But anyway, any questions so far? Tina didn't like it. She's my. Oh, Deb liked it. You got one up, one down. There's the equilibrium in the middle. I don't care either way. All right, so close your eyes. We'll do some breathing. We're going to do a different breathing now. This is a breathing technique I developed for myself when I was learning to run, learning to jog. In the story of a Dave Body, Dave Body was a premature baby with a breech birth, and I was a bit of a, you know, like it was kind of lucky I even managed to get here. But my lungs never fully developed as a baby because I was such a preemie. And I've got what they called immature lungs, I guess, apart from other things. But in that, I was at school as a child, the story of a Dave, was never able to play sport, never could kick a ball, or I'd always run out of breath. I could never have enough breath. So running for me was something that, until Stan came along, was something that was almost unimaginable. Let's have some tea. Cold. So this breath is 4 breaths in, 4 breaths out. But the breathing in, you can do it with your mouth if you want to. You can do it with your nose if you want to. You're going to impact your breath. So you're going to breathe, 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 breathe. So you're going to breathe on the count. And so where you take a breath, your second breath, without letting any air out, is going to impact on top, right behind that first little puff in, and then the third one right behind it again, and it'll force the air into your lungs. It's like you're just jamming more and more and more and more air in there. Does that make sense? So it becomes 1, 2, 3, 4, and then out 4. And if you're doing it right, you should feel that sense of your lungs being full every 4 count. Okay? And you can do this for yourself, right? If it helps you, great. And we're talking about in a moment of anxiety here, really. But if it helps you, great. If it doesn't help you, don't worry about it. Ultimately, it's a decision in the mind, and the breath becomes nothing more than a mantra-style application, because you have to breathe anyway. I don't know anyone who can not breathe. Some of those Indonesian guys can hold their breath for like 16 minutes underwater. Have you seen those guys? They live underwater, basically. I forget the name of them, but 16 minutes, the record for... It's like, what the... I'd be floating by then. So, close your eyes. And this is a kind of an energetic breathing. Right, this is more like pranic breathing than anything else. But it's not. If you've ever been to a what do they call that, prana yoga or whatever, where they teach you breathing there, it's kind of forced. It's really like activating. So, breathing in. Ready? We'll do it for. I'll do the count for 4, and the conscious activity of the in breath is to fill up behind the breath you've just taken in. Imagine it like a sack of clothes. You're putting one handful of clothes in, another handful of clothes, another handful of clothes, another, until the sack's full. And you're forcing as much clothes as you can into that sack. You ready? And in. Out. In. Out. It's really exercise for the lungs. When opera singers sing, they push out with their diaphragm. Right? The diaphragm is below the lungs. It separates the lungs from the organ cavity. They push. It's a series of muscles. They push out with that diaphragm. They push their stomach out, and it does the same thing. It forces air down into the lungs where you breathe completely, rather than just breathing on the shallow level of the lung. Okay? And that helps you to sort of integrate more oxygen into your system. For our purposes, it's meditative. We're going to sit in meditation for 5 minutes, 20 minutes, an hour, whatever. And rather than focus on our thoughts that are tempting us to, oh, is this meditation? Am I doing it right? Am I whatever? You have to breathe anyway. So our focus is going to be on our breath, rather than our thoughts about ourselves or about a meditation. Eventually what happens is your breathing, your rhythmic breathing, let's say, or your sense of breathing within your meditation becomes automatic, and your mind becomes still, because you're refusing to allow your mind to wander off into other thoughts and other avenues, other worlds of imagination. You're using your breath as a mantra. Okay, you're using your breath as the repetitious mantra for your meditation. There are no words needed. There's no conscious association with it needed. There is just a realization and an association with the breathing itself. All right, breath is life. So your conscious focus is on your breath, not your thoughts about your breath. And it's like anything. At first, it's going to take a bit of effort. It's like the workbook lessons. At first, they take effort. Eventually, they become natural. And all you're doing is reinterpreting the same kinds of processes, the same kinds of things you do now for a different purpose. Your life becomes purposeful. You'll be walking down the street enjoying your breath. You'll be walking down the street enjoying what's happening because you're one with it. You're connecting with it. It's purposeful to you. Wow, look at that dog chasing that cat. Wow. Look at the leaves falling from that tree. Wow. Look at this guy asking me for money. Wow. When this is finished, you can't have it again. Right? Don't take it for granted. Love is in this moment. When you go from this realm, from the physical realm with your physical body and everything else, and you're off into whatever the next level of your journey of your soul is, you're not going to have this experience again. But look how many of us walk around taking it for granted, trying to get to the end game of each situation. You know? And it's like you look at the idea of a husband and the wife does all the social organising. Oh, we're going for dinner with the Joneses on Friday night. And the husband's like, oh, God, no, not the Joneses. And you put on a face. You put on that face of tolerance and you sit there as the husband and you make the small talk and you do all the stuff, but you know you'd rather be home watching the football or doing whatever else it is that you would rather be doing other than being with the Joneses. And you miss the opportunity of being present and having the experience of being at dinner with the associations of your own mind and extending your love into that. Right? It's an incredible thing. My guide, the first year I was at the Healing Centre, my guide, Brent, he said, don't let this moment pass you by. Don't miss it. All of love, all of eternity, all of reality is contained in this moment, in your awareness and connection with the moment. Right? I put my finger on my nose. I'm not separate from this moment. Why would I be worried about getting it out of the way so I can get back to doing what I think I like? If I'm truly giving up the world and following Jesus, then everything that comes along in that following, everything becomes part of my spiritual journey, becomes part of what it is that following is. And it's like, well, it's not a specific thing. It looks like perhaps the parents will not scold the child, right? It looks like perhaps the person asking for 50 cents on the thing, maybe you give them $1. It looks like saying yes to yourself, yes to the universe, yes to life. rather than having something better to do. If you think you've got something better to do, you've got an agenda. If you've got an agenda, you're not giving up the world and following Jesus, because Jesus is the agenda. That's the only agenda, to love. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, power, and soul, and love your neighbor as yourself. That's it. That's the agenda. That's it. That's my business, and I'm about my business. The ego's going to want you to, don't worry about that. There's a game on the thing Friday night. We'll just have a quick dinner with the Joneses and we'll be back for the second half. Love is the agenda. Love, love, love. Don't decide what love looks like, and you'll just be in the pleasant surprise of how it is in every moment that you find yourself in your own experience. Right? Initially, in the process of healing, you go through this awful roller coaster of up and down, and this continual reassociation, and the healing section. Nobody likes doing that. Right? It's necessary, but it's like, oh my God, I hate the medicine. I like the cure, but I hate the medicine. If I could do it for you, I would, but I can't. You have to work it out for yourself. And learning to feel the heart space within yourself when you meditate within, as well as out here. I mean, what is it? Form follows function, but it's a process, and you're in the process. This answer, that answer, this question, that question. It doesn't matter. What's between the questions? What am I feeling here? Right? Where is my skin actually in the game? Where is it that I'm putting my money down and taking my chance? Breathe. And if you want to know if your game's on point, get out of your comfort zone. Say yes to the next thing that comes along that ordinarily you might not want to say yes to. Right? And if you're willing to be open to the universe, if you're willing to be open to, let's call it growth. It's not really growth because you're perfect, but let's call it growth for a second, or healing. If you're willing to be open to being shown, the universe will provide the opportunity. Just remember that you asked, right? So that next thing that comes to you that seems to be a burden, that seems to be calling upon you for something you don't want to do or don't want to participate, it's like, all right, well, hang on. I see that I have resistance here, right? Jesus' whole teaching is resist not evil. I seem to have resistance. Let me step back. Let me not listen to the options of answers and responses in my mind. Let me step back and feel. Let me step back and allow the Holy Spirit to guide me with what this is. And maybe there an answer will come here, and it may be nothing to do with what I think the situation is even presenting. And that's going to necessitate that you confront the anxiety or the, breathing. You confront the anxiety that comes up in that whole new way of decision making, because it will bring up anxiety. You're so used to listening. Let's say I'm so used to listening to the voice in my head to tell me what to say, that when I start to listen to my heart, there's this anxiety that goes on in here. What about this? What about that? It's like when you live in faith. Faith is always witnessed to in the last moment, in the final moment. That's why it's called faith. But in the preamble to that moment of receiving the reward of your faith, it brings up all those last minute efforts to want to white knuckle it and try and control the narrative in case faith doesn't work. What if there really is no God? I've just given away my last chance to be successful here on the idea of faith, and now what if faith lets me down? And it's going to bring up all that energy, all that anxiety. You're in it for the whole way. You're either in it for put your skin in the game, or you're not in it at all. Money down, let's go. Any questions? And practice feeling with your breath. Practice, if you feel like you can't feel anything, if you feel like that internal sense of feeling the presence within you, you don't know what that is and you haven't got a sense of it yet, practice that feeling with your breath. Sometimes go out into nature. Get a sense of feeling the flow of nature. Get a sense of feeling the energy of the universe around you. Body to world is the same relationship as God to creation. And I think it was last week in our satsang I was talking about the Kalahari Bushman, that little story, how the guy couldn't hear the stars talking, and it shows you how inhibited, just that one little story, it shows you how inhibited the Western mind is to its true connection, even with Mother Nature, even with the idea of the natural order of things. We're so used to being able to think we can control the narrative with regards to the natural order of things. I mean, even in England now, they're trying to dim the sun. I mean, how much hubris is that? Like, I know better than nature that's been going on for millions and millions of years. Let's just dim the sun. You know, it's like, what could possibly go wrong? It's hilarious. You know, it's hilarious. All of a sudden, you just have to surrender to it. It's like, oh my God, I've got to do this, not try to control that out there, because that's just going to drive me crazy. Trying to dim the sun. What's the next thing some dimwit's going to come up with an idea to do? You know, stop earthquakes by putting giant staples across the tectonic plates or something. You wait, it'd be something crazy. So, anyway. All right, that's about it. Unless anyone's got any questions. Practice feeling this week. You know, here's a really good little thing too to practice. Go to different places. It doesn't have to be far. It can be down to the street corner, right? And feel the vibe. Try to get a sense of feeling the energy of a location. Like if you go to a street corner and there's a busker, don't just walk past and go, oh, busker, and put 20 cents in. Stop there for a second and try to get a sense of feeling that energy. Right? Because everything is energy. Everything has a signature. Everything has a vibration. In your human experience, that vibration is compartmentalized into, I like this and I don't like that. Well, what you're essentially saying is, I like this vibration, I don't like that vibration. Right? The mind, the body, the eyes and the hands and things see it as a form. I like this form of something, I don't like that form of something, but it's a vibration, it's something you feel. Your mind always wants to think about it, right? But try to get a sense of feeling. You know, older generations would have said, walk a mile in another man's shoes if you really want to understand his life. You know, it's the same sort of thing. Put yourself in the situation. Don't become a spectator. Put yourself in, put skin in the game, and actually experience it. Feel it. You're part of it, whether you like it or not. Your presence at the street corner with the busker is the reason the busker's there. Try to get a sense of that. He's busking for you. Feel that. Don't just walk on by. Don't take this moment for granted. Stop and enjoy. Stop and smell the roses. Be present in your own experience. Look at Elizabeth hanging up her clothes. Are you hanging up clothes, Elizabeth, or is that an incredible experience you're having? Because life is either an amazing journey or nothing at all. You know, it's like, and whatever you do, washing the dishes. I'm washing the dishes with Jesus. I'm cleaning the car with Jesus. It's as simple as that. It doesn't have to be profound. It's like, wow, look at this experience of drinking my cold tea. Or am I going to sit here and go, oh, God damn it, my tea's gone cold, and now I've got to get up and go make another cup of tea. People walking in the rain. It's raining. Or is it like, wow, rain? Is this moment brand new, or am I living in past references for moments that are better than this, hoping that I'll have more of those better moments in the future? Feel, connect. You can't have this experience again when it's done. When it's over and done, when you're laying in that hospital bed, let's say on the very last day of your experience here, you'll look back on your life and you're either going to go, fuck yeah, that was incredible, or you're going to be like, oh, fuck, at least I won't have to endure any more of that crap. It's all a matter of perception. It's like you're writing your story. You are the storyteller. What kind of story do you want to write? One where you're actually the main character in it, or one where you're a secondary, you're an observer? You are the dreamer of your dream, whether you like it or not. You are the dreamer of your dream. Be about that. Be about it. Connect, enjoy, breathe, let it happen. Let go of the fear. Because it's about love, and that's all it's about. It's all it's ever been about. Love you guys. Thank you. Peace. Anna, whatever it was you were going to do, that's great. Do it. There's a whole thing that's going on for you where you're going to offer this, and I know that, and just say yes to it and step into it, okay? All right. Catch you later.
I'm gonna go see the mommies on the corner. The big holiday Mother's Day in the neighborhood, so I'll take pictures. There'll be lots of flowers.
Have fun, Tina.
Oh, I can't. I have to get some water. So the neighborhood is popping Mother's Day.
Really?
So yeah, actually, I went to the market just to get some food for the weekend, and this guy bought me flowers.
Oh, how sweet!
He was like, "Can I give you something?" I was like, "Of course you can." So he came. It was like a really beautiful vase, and I dropped the vase. I walked out and I dropped the vase. And I was like, "Oh, I made a mess for maintenance." But then I have to say, I have a little video. I have to say, but then another thing happened, and it's really lovely. Oh my God, he was so lovely, and he was so lovely. I had to say to the camera, "Isn't he lovely?" He was so sweet. So, but I'm like, ooh, the sun's out.
Let me see
Mother's
what
Day
you have on.
weekend.
What was Dave talking about?
Oh, I have a
Is it just
dashiki on because
Let
it's a
me see.
dashiki.
Like knee length or above your?
It
Is it a
actually comes to my, can you see?
do you have like
It
leggings
comes
on
to
or something?
here.
Oh, how
No, this is my
cute.
legs,
Oh,
girl.
oh, look at
But
you.
but
Look at you.
but I was to say hi to my mom, the stepmom,
Oh, okay.
and she likes when she bought this for me.
It looks
She
really
likes when I
cool.
wrap
It's
my
fun.
hair,
It's
and so
fun.
I
Yeah.
thought I was gonna see her today, but I didn't. My dad was tired, so I just sent her a message. But I put it on so she could see me in the dashiki.
Oh, how cute.
So
So
he kept
really
telling her
everybody's
moo
out in the
moo.
street? Everybody's out in the street like
Girl, in Koreatown,
I've never
it's
heard of that.
Hispanic.
Okay, I
Oh
didn't.
Lord. Actually, Mother's Day is tomorrow. But we're not even gonna dance tomorrow. We usually dance. We're not even gonna dance. I was like, what are we doing? We're gonna eat. We're just gonna
Yeah,
go
that's what I was
eat
gonna say. You're gonna go eat.
and we're just gonna
Yeah.
eat. And but everybody sells flowers and there's plenty of
Oh,
business because there's so many mommies in the neighborhood.
so the
There's
energy
plenty of
just
business. So every corner, ain't nobody competing. Everybody's like just, oh,
oh,
I'm
how
gonna send you
fun.
pictures. It's
Yeah,
so,
do a video. I'd love to see
oh,
it. I've never heard that
oh,
ever. Yeah.
oh yeah, it's a big holiday. Mother's Day. Woo. Yeah. How you doing, Mary? Mary. Where my
Hi,
Mary at? Where my
Mary.
Mary at? Where my Mary
Woohoo.
I'm
at?
here.
I'm so happy
Hi.
to see you.
I'm happy to see you. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
You'll be back? I hope. Well,
Um,
we'll see. We're happy to
I
have
hope
you
so.
now. Happy to see you now.
It
It
was a surprise for myself to be here.
was a what for yourself?
A surprise for myself. I don't know if you can hear me. Can you hear me?
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, it's impressed for you. Right on, right
Yeah.
on. I'm happy to see you too. It's been a
Oh,
minute, but we talk all the time. Well, we talk enough, or we don't talk enough, actually. We could talk more.
maybe.
Maybe.
I really need to go because I need to pass out and go to work tomorrow, like today.
All right. All right.
So,
Good to see you. Good to see you.
All
good to
right.
see you.
I'll
Okay.
expect some
Who sent me a
videos,
message?
Tina.
Okay,
Glowing
bye.
Tina. Who's that? Oh, that's you. I was like,
Ah!
Yeah,
sorry, I didn't mean to call you out. Thank you, love.
that's all
You so
right.
happy to see you.
Okay, you take care of yourself.
Dana.
Bye-bye.
All right. I'll send pictures. Dana, Dana, Dana. How are
Yeah,
you,
hell yeah.
lovely?
Oh man, Tina. Oh, the ex-husband thing, it's done. Like not done. It got to the layer I saw his call for love as a little boy, and it just changed the whole way I see him now.
Yeah, yeah.
Totally. And it, yes, it was all me. It was all me.
Thank
It was
God. Thank
me. Thank
God. Thank
God.
God.
Yeah. So it's a huge block that it's been tumbleweed for a couple months, but now I can see it clearly. And oh, thank you, man.
Yeah. I
Mhm.
mean,
Yeah.
one, it just takes one. Truly
Yeah.
forgive one brother. That's
Big
representing
one.
all
Yes.
brothers. You know what I
So
mean?
beautiful. Yeah. So thank you because,
Oh,
pieces were falling off, but it's just like, why? And it just came to the thank you. Oh
yeah.
man. Yeah. I'm so
Yeah.
grateful.
Yeah.
But
Oh,
anyway,
cool.
yeah. Get going. Have a
Oh,
taco for me.
I think I will have some tacos.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
All
go see
right.
what's going on out
All
there.
right. I love
Okay.
you. I love
Love
you.
you.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.